United Nations Social Justice. Africa and the Colonial Experience, 1880s–1960s, with the Duwa Bright Victory Digital Library. Social Education. History Research Center. Presenter, Bitaygle Timam. 2.3 Scramble for Africa and the Berlin Conference. Before the 1880s, only 10% of Africa was ruled by foreign powers. Most of North Africa was under nominal Turkish rule. Others include Omani rule in Zanzibar Island, the British in Sierra Leone, the French in Algeria, the Boers and the British in South Africa, the Portuguese in Mozambique and Angola coastal areas. These foreign rules were limited only to the coastal part of Africa. The rest of 90% of Africa was free from foreign rule and was independent. Later, European interest in Africa was radically changed. A fierce rivalry, massive and rapid colonial expansion of Europeans in Africa from the 1880s to the first decade of the 20th century is called the Scramble for Africa. 2.3.1 Berlin Conference, 1884 to 1885. The Berlin Conference was held from 1884 to 1885 in Berlin, Germany. The German Chancellor Otto von Bismarck was the leader of the conference. The 14 countries represented at the time were Austria-Hungary, Belgium, Denmark, France, Germany, Great Britain, Italy, the Netherlands, Portugal, Russia, Spain, Sweden, Norway, Turkey, and the United States of America. Of these 14 nations, France, Germany, Great Britain, and Portugal were the major players in the conference, controlling most of colonial Africa at the time. Britain, France, Germany, Belgium, Italy, Portugal, and Spain were competing for power within European power politics. However, Africa was not invited nor involved in the conference. The main goal of the conference was to talk of dividing up Africa among the European colonial powers. The competition between European powers intensified when King Leopold II of Belgium and Germany entered the competition for African colonies. King Leopold II of Belgium wanted to make Congo his personal colony, and for this reason, he employed H.M. Stanley to explore the Congo River. Before the Berlin Conference, in 1884, Germany had Togo, Cameroon, and Southwest Africa, Namibia, and in 1885, Tanganyika, as its protectorate. At the conference, the participants decided on the General Act of the Conference, which laid international guidelines for colonization, has 38 articles. The Berlin Conference marked the real beginning of colonization in Africa. El Principle of Effective Occupation. According to Article 35 of the final act, colonial powers could acquire rights over colonial lands only if they possessed them, if they had treaties with local leaders, if they flew their flag there, and if they established an administration in the territory with a police force to keep order. 2. Doctrine of the Sphere of Influence. According to Article 34 of the General Act of the Berlin Conference, any fresh act of taking possession of any portion of the African coast would have to be notified by the power taking possession to the other signatory powers. The conference resolved to end slavery in Africa. 3. The Congo Free State, today's Democratic Republic of the Congo, was confirmed as the private property of King Leopold II of Belgium. 4. Free navigation of the Niger and the Congo. The colonial powers followed different means to colonize Africa. These were fake treaties and force. A good example of such a fake or trickery treaties was the Vuchal Treaty signed between Ethiopia and Italy. This will be discussed in another unit later. Europeans were successful in rapidly partitioning Africa during the Scramble, because of the following reasons. The major factor for European victory over Africa was the military superiority that they enjoyed over Africa. European powers were using professional and well-trained armies. 2. Lack of cooperation and solidarity among Africans. Those weaknesses were made use of by Europeans to their advantage.